and more of us are going to struggle to outcompete software, artificial intelligence. We have to start evolving.
If people want to stay ahead and gain the skills that they need to be on top of their game in their careers, they're going to need to keep learning.
Soft skills, how to deal with human behavior and how to adjust to things that are changing in real time. That's an area that's very, very difficult for computers, but humans have a huge advantage.
There's power in confidence. I'm on the other side of the table now. I produce and I direct and I write. I can really feel the difference when someone comes into a room with confidence.
I'm such an advocate for everyone to think like an entrepreneur. Think about how you would be doing your job if nobody showed you how to do it.
Through the study of analytics, I knew exactly what was going to win, what was going to lose. Anybody can look at their craft, their profession, their passion, and become better. It's about finding that edge.
Welcome everyone to Big Think Live. I am Jason Olson, one of the editors at Big Think. Today's topic is the Rebel Chef's Guide to Innovation. And we are happy to welcome Dominique Crenn live on Big Think. Hello, chef. How are you today?
Amazing. Thank you for having me. Great. It's a very different time, but I'm happy. So
good to hear. One of the things that you said in Rebel Chef that I resonated with and I really appreciated was that you love France on a mineral level. And before we got into all the ins and outs of your innovation and what you've created with Atelier Crenn, I want to get a little bit of context for the audience of where you come from and your French past. So you are sort of both. You're from both the Versailles region, but also Bretagne. Can you share a little bit about where you come from and your origins?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me on the show. First of all, I'm so grateful to be here and talking to you today. So I was born and raised just right outside of Paris, which is a city called Versailles, which is about, I will say 10, 15 minutes from Paris. I was lucky enough, so I was abandoned when I was 6 months old, and I was lucky enough to be adopted by two wonderful human being that originated from Brittany, which is on the west part of France, by the water, the Atlantic, a very Celtic place. And so I spent, we lived outside of Paris, but I spent most of my time in Brittany, where my parents come from, my adoptive parents come from. And Brittany is a beautiful a place in France, maybe often not as known as south of France. But if you leak, I mean, you've been to Brittany. Yeah. Brittany used to be its own country up to the, I think, 14th century. The last queen name was Queen Anne, and they had their own language called Breton, which is a language. It's not a dialect. It's a language actually that you can take as well as Spanish or English or German at school. And it's very Celtic, so very, a lot of, I will say, Ireland, right. England, and that. And it's one of the most beautiful, I think, place in France. It's very raw, it's very pure.
Sounds like it's already somewhat of an independent spirit in Brittany.
Oh yeah, the Bretons are very independent. They've been fighting like the Basque in France. They want their independence, But it's interesting because it's a place that during election, it's a very important place to any candidate that want to be elected as a president, because the Breton, as they have the voice to change one way or the other. Because this is a farmland. It's all with farmers and things like that. And if you don't make happy a Breton, then you're done politically. So, but very loyal, very dedicated, very hardworking people, and just beautiful people. So it's just it's a place that I found when I was younger, a place of reflection, a place of looking at the world differently. It's a place by the sea, and ocean, and the feeling of the ocean always been a very important in my life, and because as we talked earlier, I think water is the core of everything. It's how the world was created. There's water before to have the planet. It's water before we get out of our mother womb. So it's mysterious for me. It's also very respectful for me, but yet there is something, it's so attractive,
Right.
So
And can you, I was very interested in how your parents, in the book you described your family and how sort of influential they were. You have a very, obviously close relationship with them, but I was sort of interested in how your adopted parents were, in what ways they were traditional and then in what ways they were not, because it seemed like a balance of sort of both.
Right. So traditional in a way of the tradition of the French culture, I will say, and traditional about how a family works, and the respect and all that, but also really much outside in a way that they gave us, my brother and I, a very young age, the ability to think for ourselves. They gave us the confidence to be who we wanted to be, and not to direct us in a way that to be the way they wanted us to be, which was very important, I think, because often parents, they want their kids to be a certain way.
Right.
My parents gave us the ability they gave us the tool to think for ourselves, and to allow us to understand that there is consequences on decision that we will make as a young child, but also as a young adult and as an adult.
Right.
And that really helped us to become my brother and I, who we are today. And I think that's very important. Confidence as a very young age to your kids, that in the future of their life. And I really believe that. So I think we were giving a gift from them, but the gift also came with a lot of responsibility. So it allowed us at a very young age to really get with the program and understand who we were and the consequences. It's like, I remember at one point, we were a little bit older, and it was like the time of like having new friends and going to Paris and going to parties and all that. And I remember my mom and my dad set us down, my brother and I, and they were like, we want you guys to have fun. We really want you to have fun. And you want to go out? You want to go dance? Great. You want to go drink and do drugs? But this is the consequences that can happen if you do this.
Right.
And because they didn't say you can't do this, but this is the consequences, then it makes you think.
Sure.
I don't want to become that person. And then what happened is I was a wild person, but I've never abused drugs. I've never done any drugs. I never done all of that. But I knew that I think when they give you that type of freedom, it allow you to make your own decision within you. And I think it allow you to be wild without being crazy wild,
Right.
And so it's, I think they were very smart about it,
And it almost seems to me that your father, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like he had a little bit of a feminist appreciation in that. I mean, you recount this story about how your brother was being bullied, and you just sort of without thinking stepped in and defended your brother, which was traditionally something, another boy would usually do.
Right.
But you were scared of your father's reaction, but then when you came home, it was it was somewhat surprising to you, his reaction.
Yes, I remember it was this time my brother and I went to a trip in England, and my brother got in trouble, not really knowing, but it was about the other guy that he was hanging out with, and I was briefed on that incident, and they were supposed to send back my brother to France and all that, and I took, I got really passionate about it, and I kicked some ass basically, and then I was a little bit, worried about what my dad would think, and what my dad, my dad sat me down and literally was, violence is not often an answer, but I appreciate, and yes, you are my girl, and I'm so proud of you that you did this. And I was just like, yes. But that was not the only incident. I literally took justice in my own hand, also with people that I loved. It was this other boy at school that was bullied, and Sebastian, and I literally protected him. And there is another, there was this boy that didn't belong to the school, and were kind of also bullying other people in the school. And I took matter into my own hands. And I remember that time I came out of school, and this guy was there and was really bothering this boy, and I literally took him and threw him against a car, and I said, "You can't do this. This is not right." And like all the parents were just watching me, and then you could hear, it's like, "Oh, this is Dominique. This is Alain Crenn's daughter." And of course, my dad heard it, and then the principal took me, and they say, "Dominique, we really appreciate what you're doing. You can't do this, But I just, I think it was like, I don't believe in bullying. I don't believe in all that. And so in a very young age, I was very much about, this is not right. So, and I didn't look at myself as being a girl, fighting. I was looking at someone that was standing up for what was right without thinking, or maybe with thinking properly. And I wish that people will do that more often, to standing up for others, instead of saying, of staying silent and be complicit. And this is what we're living. We're living in a world right now about complicity. People do not stand up for what is right, because they're so afraid of losing maybe something.
Right.
But what they don't realize, if they do that, we are losing what humanity is about, Right. And so
I definitely want to talk about how your restaurant and how you lead in such a sort of conscious way. But before that, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the other inspiration for you as a young girl in France, which maybe sort of planted the seeds of becoming a chef. And one of the people you mentioned was Albert Coquille, who was the food critic at Le Telegram, I believe, the local paper in Breton. And I think he was a friend of the family. And so can you share with us how he sort of instilled in you some of the ideas about how you approach cuisine and creation?
Well, I mean, so Albert, thank God he's still alive. And yeah, he was my dad's best friend. And I was, I was so interested at first with his writing. It was not per se, just going to a restaurant. Obviously, we were very lucky to be able to go to a lot of restaurants with him. But it's just like, I remember I asked him a question one time. I said, Albert, how do you define someone that will go a journalist, and what is journalism at the time, and what is the process of writing about a restaurant? Because literally you are writing about someone that doing their craft so much love and passion. and how do you approach the narrative when you want to talk about that person or her work or his work. And I remember he said to me, you know, Dom, I go in with a sense of being grateful to be at that place at that moment. And I remove my own ego and I observe of the work of that person. And sometimes it might not be the cuisine that I like, but removing my ego make me understand a little bit more of what that person is about and really trying to understand to get into their world. And if I don't think this is something that I can write yet about them, I will never go and write something bad about somebody that I don't like or the cuisine that I don't like, because I feel that perhaps they need more time. And I thought there was so much integrity in that where he was approaching things. And what I realized that when you do things in life, you might not be the best that you can be for others at the beginning, and you need to be allowed to have a space to be better. And as a chef, you know, when I become a chef, I dislike the journalisms around me. I don't, you know, people, the critics around me, I didn't feel that they were journalists. They just wanted to go out there and be wolf and trying to see and to write something about, to have the first scoop, you know, oh, I didn't like this. And I don't appreciate that, you know. A true journalist is someone that will take a time to really understand the other person. It's like in politics, you know, you don't have to like all the politicians, but you want to be able to sit down and listen to them.
Right.
Be able to absorb, you know. And so I knew that getting in this work, I will get people that will not understand me right away.
Right.
And it will allow myself to not beat up myself right away, because, you know, I mean, it's harsh, you know, when someone, you know, right.
You seem more interested in kind of conveying these feelings or memories, and sort of your own past. I mean, I think one of the people featured in the Chef's Table on Netflix said that you were sort of this like you're obviously a French person, you know, who is living and breathing in California,
right.
And your food honestly conveys that. And I thought that, I mean, for one thing, it really makes me want to get to your restaurant as soon as possible. And then you also described in the book Michel Bras, the Michelin star, the winning chef, and he had a very innovative restaurant at that time and you experienced this meal of his that was sort of the land, and he really kind of took it from where he was at that moment living. And it seems like you're continuing that in what you do.
Yes, and I think, you know, what really struck me with him and also Chef Olivier Rollinger is, for the first time, I experienced someone that was literally telling his own story, his own narrative, his own emotion, his own struggle, you know. Because, you know, I think when you look at the big picture of the culinary world for a long time, it's like, it's the same menu, the same technique, and everyone was doing everything, you know, the same way, you know, obviously from since Escoffier, and you could go to most of the restaurant in France, and you could have literally the same menu. But Michel is the time and place, you know, and telling a story through his food. It's like an artist,
right?
A painter, a writer, a singer. You know, there is chef and there is chef. There is writer and there is writer. And I think understanding that someone could tell the story through food and getting to know him this way or to know her, I thought it was so powerful. And then I realized that I realized that I'm not alone. That if I want to do that, this is what I want to do in my life. Not saying that I want to be a chef, but I want to live my life with the purity and the authenticity that I want people to see me for who I am and not to make or pretending of who I am. And I think that was very powerful. You know, I mean, that restaurant was very powerful into my life. You know, the same with Olivier Rollinger. His restaurant in Brittany was. I've never seen that. I've never tasted that before. But it's not just about the food. It's about, you know, the history. You know, I always say that food is the core of the society, but food can tell you the history of where you are or the people that are making it. So. And to discover that and to feel that through food is amazing. I mean, if you go to Rene restaurant in Noma, you know, in Copenhagen right now, you can see what not that mark is about, but you can see also who Rene is. But perhaps years ago you couldn't see it because he was doing whatever other people were doing. But it's so important to have your own narrative. And you know, people, you know, you're not cooking because people tell you to cook this way. You are cooking because you're inviting people into your life. And if they want to, great. If they don't want to, then go to another restaurant. I don't care.
Right, of course. Now, when you came to the States, you focused. I mean, I read that you waited tables for a while, and you kind of you took a little bit of time to get settled, but fairly shortly, once you decided you wanted to cook, you went right to the restaurant and right to the chef that you had sort of a, you know, kind of a spiritual attraction to, Jeremiah Tower.
Yeah.
And I actually got to watch an interview with him a couple of days ago when I was researching you, and he had this quote I thought that was kind of fantastic. He said, I have a fatal attraction for a slim chance. And I wondered if you resonated with that, because of so much of what you do is so different in the cuisine world. It is your own drum that you were beating. Can you speak a little bit about what you kind of got from the experience of working with Chef Tower?
Well, yes, I mean, we're very good friends today, and we have done a few things together, and I've taken on, you know, we travel together, and we've done some different thing, and I was so attracted to him in a lot of ways. So when I started to do my research, I knew. So I don't know if you know his story, but he's never trained as a chef. He was an architect, literally, and he grew up in a very well-off family, and they used to travel all over the world. And he was left in his room when his parents were partying, and so the only thing he was doing when he was left in a room, in a hotel room, he used to go down to the restaurant and sit down at a table and eat fabulous dinner and hang out with the chef. I mean, he was very young and collecting all those menus. He's a man that gave me a chance. He took a chance on me without being worried, which I really appreciate. And he treated me with so much respect, and even knowing that I didn't have the skill maybe of other people, perhaps. And, you know, the fact that, you know, about slim risk is, I think exactly the same way. I do not go with things that are safe. I like to go with things that are unsafe in this world, because I feel that if you want to do something and you believe in something, you don't have any choice, just doing it. It doesn't matter what other people, you know, tell you. I mean, the example, you know, when we decided to open Atelier Crenn, it was in the middle of the crisis in America.
Right.
I didn't have any money. I didn't have any investor. I didn't have any choice. That's what I needed to do. And then didn't have any choice. And I keep my vision clear. And I knew in my heart, when you keep your vision clear and you believe in yourself and you have the confidence to do the things that you do, one day, one person will pay attention. And you keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And I guess, next year is the 10 years anniversary of Atelier Crenn. So the rest is history. So I'm excited. Yeah, it's fantastic,
Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
And do you think that, were there things, experiences, or ways of managing the team or running the business that Jeremiah Tower had, or even you also mentioned Loretta Keller, who I think ran the cafe of Jeremiah's restaurant. Is there anything that you kind of take with you that you've brought to your own teams?
So yes, the first things that I took with me was that Jeremiah enabled us as a cook to be able to take our own responsibility in a way of cooking. Means by that often when you go to a restaurant, you get a brigade, and you literally get into the restaurant and nobody. There is the chef and there's just numbers of cook, and you gotta do exactly what the chef's telling you to do, and you don't have any voice. Literally, Jeremiah gave us a voice. And he enabled us to be creative. So the example that I can give you is that we used to get there in the morning, and we had a shift and different, we had a station assigned to us. And then on that station, that day we changed the menu every day. You had 3 to 4 different dishes. And the menu was handed to you with just the name of the dish. No recipe, some guidance, but you had the responsibility as the cook to make sure that those dishes were amazing. You had to figure out the recipe, the guidance of the chef. And at 4:30, he used to come and they used to test everything. And remember, we opened at 5 o'clock at night. 300 to 600 people that night. And if at 4:30 the dishes were not up to par, you had half hour to make sure you had to fix it. And so the pressure of all that, you didn't want to get to that moment of like, oh, I got to redo all those dishes. You can't do that in a half hour. Right. So that pressure gives us the ability to focus, but also this pride of, wow, I have the responsibility to make sure everything is great, and they give me that responsibility. And that's a big thing when you realize that you're not a number anymore, but you have a name, and your name is Dominique Crenn, and the chef call you by your name and respect you as a person of being a part of the process of making the menu. And that's big. That's big. And that was new. That's totally new. And it's still new today. There's not a lot of people that do that in their restaurant. They don't give voices to the people. They just, this is how, so what I learned a lot is the difference between a boss and being a leader.
Right.
A boss is someone that is out there and give people things to do, and they have to do it the way that the boss, and they don't have any voice. A leader is someone that inspires others, but also let himself or herself to be inspired by her or his team. And that's what Jeremiah was. He was a leader. He was not a boss.
Right. It seems like you and he have both sort of wiped away, kind of cleared the established rules and order of the kitchen. Totally. And you've kind of both really had complete faith in your staff. I mean, to me, it almost sounds like you look at your staff as more like collaborators. And I don't know if it's in the book or maybe in something an interview I read, you even said that you try to learn something, from your staff. Is there something, like when you hire someone now, what do you look for in kind of adding on to what you have? Is there some kind of characteristic? Is there like a code, or is it purely just sort of intuitive when you choose someone to bring onto your team?
Well, I mean, yes, I will tell you the code, the way that I hire people. But I look at the human values of that person. So I don't care about their skill as far I know how to make a béarnaise or hollandaise or the five mother sauce. I don't really care about this, because this you can learn. But what you can't learn is human values. And so I'm always interested in people that have that type of understanding about the world, about humanity, about respect, about others. That's very important. And what I always say, and it's been this code has been written on the wall of one of the wall of Atelier Crenn, and I always say that here, if you work at Atelier Crenn, it's not your aptitude, but it's your attitude that will define your altitude.
With 2 T's, I got it.
With 3 A, and that's very important, because if there is no humanity in, not just in a restaurant or any company that you work with, then there is nothing. We need to go back to the value and respect each other and be able to, because we all need to learn from each other. I mean, the beauty of this world, the best idea come from people that come from diverse background and diverse ideas. And when you come to a table with different ideas, then suddenly a big idea is going to come. If you stay with people with always the same narrative and the same way of thinking, you're not going to go anywhere.
Right.
You're not going to evolve. And that, that for me, it's not interesting, but we need to really, and I think this is, what's interesting that is probably applying a lot right now with the pandemic. I hope that a lot of people have realized that humanity and caring for others and also listening to other and re-engaging with other is really crucial and essential to the humankind. And
yeah, let's actually discuss that for a moment. How you you transformed your business model in a matter of hours. It seemed like from the pandemic, you went to sort of a almost like a delivery takeout service, and then you were providing meals for essential workers. Can you talk about how the pandemic has kind of evolved your business, in an unexpected way?
Well, I mean, I remember I remember very clearly March 15, when Governor Gavin Newsom, is the governor of California, came on and literally shut down totally California. We were in the office downstairs, and we looked at each other, and I just said, okay, who are we? We are people that are here because we are at the service of others. That's why we are here, and that's why we are in the hospitality. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. We're going to serve people. We're going to serve the community. We're going to go to the medical worker. We're going to make sure that everybody is fed properly. But there was also a lot of things behind it. It was not about just making food. It was about making food with purpose and making sure that the food that we were making also was good for them, for their energy, for their health and all that. So it was almost, it was kind of a 360, degree. I don't know if it's 360 or 180, but it made sense for us to make sure that we were still at the forefront of being at the service of others. And it was very, we're still doing it because we're still kind of on the lockdown here. It's been 7 months. And right now, one of my restaurant is pivoted for the last 2 months to a commissary kitchen to be able to feed to feed hunger in San Francisco. So I'm making about 2,000 meals a week in a tiny kitchen for the homeless population in San Francisco. So, which is so so rich and so fulfilling. And you know, food is powerful, and food is political, but we get we got to use it the right way.
Right. Yeah.
And you allow me also to really reflect on the food system in America. And I'm working a lot on changing the food system with others to be able to make sure that everyone in America get good food, not crappy food from those corporations that make shitty food out there, which is not good food. I want the school to be fed properly, the children to be fed properly. I don't want any outside company to make food that is not even food. I want chefs and farmers and the community to come together and to make sure that we make great food. I want organic food to be affordable everywhere. You know, so, yeah.
Did this motivate you to, to make your menu mostly plant-based and pescatarian? I take it that is part of your sort of food is politics system.
Well, I mean, you know, one of the restaurants has been always pescatarian. Petit Crenn has been pescatarian. So we started food from Brittany, but all seafood and vegetable from the farm. Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'm not a vegetarian, I'm mostly pescatarian, but I did it because I'm also very angry about the industrialization of food, especially the industrialization of the meat industry.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we all love, you know, to have a good steak or, you know, whatever. But I mean, this is not normal to have those cow or those pig to be like, I mean, it's, I went to those factory.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And if anyone think for 1 second that is good for them to eat that, they need to rethink, because this is not the right way to do things, you know. I will support ranchers that doing the right thing, but that needs to stop.
Right.
And the consequences of those industry, those factory, those meat factory, it's go farther than just feeding people not properly, but also the ecosystem and the planet and all that. It's like, why do you want to destroy forest in somewhere in Brazil because you want to put some livestock, because you want to have more to make more hamburger? It's like, what the fuck?
Yes.
Who are we? Who are we as human? You know. So I think it's about maybe educated people and maybe helping people to understand the consequences of things, and sometimes to be able to rebalance the world, we might need to go to an extreme. And I think the extreme might be, right now we are in big trouble. We all know that we are in big trouble. The planet is not doing well.
Yeah.
We are in a world of instant gratification right now, where we don't think about the consequences of our action. And maybe we need to go back to a place where understanding that everything that we do in life needs to have a purpose, and maybe everything that we do needs to be an act of activism. And the word that activism is not a word. It's a word that will help us to, you know, have 2 girls. I don't want my 2 6-year-olds to live in a world that is shitty right now.
Right. Yeah.
We have the responsibility to make sure we live this world in a way that is healthy, but it's not healthy right now. It's not. It's not. And I'm doing my work. I still need to do more work. Yeah. And it's if we think for a second, you know, like, for example, I say to people, when you go to the store, you have $10 in your hand. do you want to just give you $10 without thinking and picking up a piece of whatever? Or do you want to really understand when you give that $10, where is that $10 going? Okay, I'm buying this, but who are those people that make that things, and where that $10 going?
Right.
When you start to think this way, we can change a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I truly believe that when you go to a restaurant or supermarket, it doesn't have to be just with food. It has to do maybe with your clothing. Understand the value of the company. If you go to a place where the clothing is made with on the back of children,
Yeah.
you don't want to support the company. Just a little bit thinking, that would be nice. I don't know. And that will go a long way. So I think if we can help people to think this way, it's so powerful.
Yes, very much.
And it's not about, oh, I'm not going to make money, I'm going to lose, no, it's like monies come and go. But humanity, we have one humanity, and we have one world.
Chef, so we definitely
I'm passionate about it.
Sorry, what? Oh no! Yes, I mean that passion pays off, obviously. So we definitely have some audience questions we'll want to get to, but before we did, I just wondered if it may be difficult to sort of distill your creative process, but I'm sure some of the viewers would be interested to know if you have some kind of system or a few things you do when you are approaching, creating a dish or even a full menu. Certain artists and even entrepreneurs, sometimes they have little rituals they do. And I wondered if you had anything in particular, meditation or taking walks or exercise, anything that you use to kind of get you to that place.
Well, meditation is always good when you wake up in the morning. Yeah, I love to, I feel the most inspired when I go to museum by myself and walking around and trying to understand other people's process and trying to get emotion. I'm also extremely inspired with my curiosity. Often when I'm curious about something that I don't know, it always trigger my curiosity, and perhaps I come up with ideas. I'm very inspired with my surrounding, and I want to learn more about where I am, the time and place where I am. And that's the way that often I create dishes. I never create dishes in the kitchen or going to the market and vegetables inspire me. It's really interesting. But I think it's, a vegetable is, a dish is an expression of ourselves, and this expression of ourselves means that this is what we're feeling at the time. And maybe, a painter will express that through his brush and the color and his painting. As a chef, you're expressing that through maybe perhaps the product you're using and the canvas you have in front of you, and suddenly you create this texture and this layer and this complexity and this feeling. And that's basically how we create things here.
Sounds good to me. I am looking forward to my first Cure Breton with you.
I know.
And I will remind you of this interview, and we can talk about Breton a little bit. I could go on and on. I also want to hear about your days of going to Le Bain in Paris in the 80s at some point, but that is not for this this discussion, probably.
Oh, no, you don't want me to.
It sounded pretty good.
What happened at the bain, stay at the bain.
That sends my imagination.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me get to some of our questions here. I have a question from Alexandra Hart, who is asking, what is your dream and what are you most proud of?
My dream, God, I have so many dreams, I realize a lot of my dreams right now, but I have more dreams. There's something that I've not done. I think I want to really travel all over the world and really give myself to others and other community. Through my DNA, I did a lot I find out a lot of my lineage, which are half of my lineage are in North Africa and Egypt and all of that. So, and Africa. So I'm very interested to go out there and I'm working with an association right now to maybe to go and build things for community and be a part of that journey. So that's very interesting to me. What I'm the most proud of, I think those two little girls named Olivia and Charlotte, very proud of them.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Lovely. And actually a really good question that I actually wanted to get to as well, from Yana. How do you think about diversity in the industry and in your kitchen?
Well, I think it goes back to what we spoke earlier, that diversity, I think, is very essential in any place of work, because it gives you the ability to hear different voices and different point of view, and it allow you to continue the evolution of what you started, and that's how I see it. And so it's a very essential things for me to continue that diversity in my place of work and in any area in my life. So even in politics or things, the way that I think, because even if I have a way of thinking and I think things are the right way, I like to always hear other point of view, unless those point of view doesn't interest me. So, that happens sometime in politics,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can ponder it for a while, but if you don't drive with it, you don't. I understand.
I want to tell you that I don't believe in people that have the way they live their life is with kind of dogma. I don't believe in that.
Dogma, yeah.
So
yeah, definitely a downer. Toby would like to know, his question is, what's the best way to improve our own cooking? So I take it he wants maybe some maybe little touches of Atelier Crenn into his own simple home cooking. Is there a way to do this?
Well, I think the first things to improve your cooking is start with the ingredient that you have with yourself. If you go to a market or you go to support your farmer, get the best ingredient, seasonal and the best you can get. And from that, when you have already something that is amazing, if you have a tomato, get the best tomato. And then from that, you can create a dish that can really be curious and learn technique. And from that, you can have something just amazing. Improving your cooking, it's also being curious of things that you want to learn. That's how to do it, cooking is not about it's not about technique. Cooking is about a feeling, and understanding what you want to do with it, but it's always start with the best of it, which is the ingredient. So I don't know if
that's helpful. Do you yourself sometimes go through phases where you're very sort of focused on, one ingredient for a couple of weeks? Like, I'm all about eggplant this week. I'm going to fry it. I'm going to roast it. I'm going to or are your inspirations more sort of kind of mixed?
I think it's kind of mixed. Yesterday I worked I work all morning. So I work now once a week at the farm, literally planting and getting my hand dirty. And I think it was interesting yesterday. I was planting cauliflower yesterday, and I'm sure no one knows what cauliflower looks like when you eat. It's literally, leaves, and then there is seed, and then you plant it in the soil. But I think the way, just the act of planting and really reconnect with the soil, and for one moment, it took me back to Brittany, where I was like hanging out in the field And I remember the taste of the cauliflower of my mom when she was making the cauliflower salad, and it was just really taking me to a different level. I'm sorry, what was your question? I went through.
No. That you were answering the question. I was actually myself curious for the dish, your dish, A Walk in the Forest, which has been written about a lot and was featured on Chef's Table on Netflix. I just wondered how many different sort of trials did you give that dish before? I mean, if you remember, before it was like, this is it.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I think it's still evolving. You know, it's funny if someone wanted me to do another one, which is not on the menu anymore, but like we gonna be evolving. So that dish came from memories of my brother and I going to the forest with my father. You know, through the forest and picking up, berries and mushroom and all that. And that feeling of texture and moisture and wildness and nature around you was so powerful through my life that I was recreating in this idea of walking through the forest. It's about the texture. You know, I think that when you taste something, you gotta get into your mind of all the texture. For me, it was all the texture of life. The forest is life for me.
Yeah.
And which very similar with the ocean, but the forest, I mean, there's the ocean and then things got erosion and then trees got to, it's the tree of life. And yeah, I mean, it's always, and it's still evolving. I can make the walk in a forest today would be totally different than I did 10 years ago, which is beautiful because, the earth is moving and my life is moving and the texture and the complexity in my life also are changing. So adding to that is so interesting to me. So, yeah.
That's lovely. Well, Chef Crenn, I could keep going, but I know you have a busy day ahead of you creating experiences for people who are badly in need of that experience in San Francisco. And, but I think we should maybe finish with this question. What are the 3 qualities that make your food a special experience? Or 5, whatever, however many you want to give it. But what do you think?
I think, integrity, transparency, emotion, consciousness, and fun. And then you literally, I'm putting and vulnerable also. I'm literally putting myself on the plate. And what you see is what you get, and it's who I am. So that's what it is, yeah. And it's delicious also.
I can tell. I have yet to try it, but I am a believer.
I mean, I was going to use the word umami, but umami is yes, it's all umami, but I think it's more than that. It's really, I think when you come here and you're eating the food that we're making, I think you get a sense of who I am, and I think that's important to me. So.
No, it seems like a very full and memorable experience, and I really do mean it. I as soon as possible, I want to come.
Yeah, please. And, when we open, I don't know when, but
Well, we'll look forward to it in the future. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Chef Crenn. And the book was really an enjoyable and very thoughtful read, and I recommend it for people who have any kind of creative endeavor or who have a rebellious streak in them to go against the grain and do what they are passionate about doing. I think it's a really great herald for that.
And I think I want to say this moment in time. I want to know that people need to go out there and really do the things that they want to do and they love to do, and not be scared about the not knowing, because we need authenticity right now more than ever in every area in life, and if each person can give that, I think the world would be a better world.
I agree completely. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And thank you for speaking with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Courage. Merci.
Bye.
So thank you for joining us for our discussion with Dominique Crenn today. And please join us Monday, September 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That's going to be another live webinar when we will be speaking to author and journalist Matthew Yglesias about his latest book, 1 Billion Americans. And as always, our live webinar will include a viewer Q&A from the comments section on YouTube and Facebook. Stay safe, everyone.